Petty revenge. The time a supervisor tried to throw me under the bus, but I had receipts. This happened in 2015, during my first year of teaching in special education USA. I don't know if anyone else here works in SPED, but if you do, you're probably familiar with the difficult process of obtaining a one-on-one para for a student. So I had this kiddo, we'll call him Jay. Jay had some unsafe behaviors as a kindergartner, such as eloping from the school and into the neighborhood. It was terrifying to say the least, and a big safety concern. So I spoke with my supervisor, showed him the data, and he agreed this student definitely needed one-on-one support. My supervisor, Mr. C, worked with me for a couple of weeks on the safety net process, getting a one-on-one. It was a lot of loops and jumps and saying the right thing in very specific ways, but I got it completed. I sent it to Mr. By C for the last final review and was met with silence. I emailed him after a day, because we're all busy in this field, no worries, but more silence. I called his office and left a voicemail with his secretary, but more silence. I tried to get a hold of him for 2 weeks, with growing worry, because the deadline was approaching, but I never heard back from him. After the due date passed, he finally messaged me and said since I didn't reach out to him with the final copy, the one-on-one wasn't approved. I was pissed. So I gathered copies of all the emails, the phone calls, every attempt I made to reach out to him and sent it to his boss, Mr. B, head of SPED services. I also included Mr. C's last email. A couple of days later, Mr. C sent me a formal letter of apology through our district mailing system. Mr. B granted me an extension and filed the paperwork himself, and also granted me an emergency one-on-one while the paperwork processed. At the end of the year, Mr. C was fired from his position. I doubt it was just me, but I'm sure my receipts had something to do with his removal as a SPED supervisor. And that's my story. I was telling it to a co-worker here, and he said I should post it under petty revenge. Petty revenge. Old balls got handed to him. This was a really short and sweet, immediate petty revenge moment. I was enjoying a cup of coffee on my back porch. We live on the 10th hole green on a golf course. It is set in nature, nestled by trees and filled with deer and turkeys, and all sorts of other things like that. It is a very Keep Tahoe blue kind of place in the Sierra foothills. This entitled prick of a man in his 70s cruises to the green on his golf cart and proceeds to jump out of the cart with a lit cigarette in his mouth, that he just throws on the ground, still lit, before putting his ball. I was kind enough to wait for his shot, and then when he walked back to the cart, I asked him if he was going to pick up his cigarette. He rolled his old man eyes at me, and I looked at his friends and said, "Really, you're going to let this guy throw his nasty cigarette butt? It's not his personal course." They weakly shrugged their shoulders and they all drove away. I put down my coffee and walked out front to my driveway, off to the side, out of view. The next tee is directly across the street from my driveway. So as soon as the old man put his ball on the tee and takes his driver back, I immediately yell, "For Litterbug" at the top of my lungs, and completely ruined his shot. The ball literally bounced off his own golf cart and he practically threw his driver. It brought me immense amounts of joy. Thankfully, he had the foresight not to retaliate, and they all drove off down the fairway. Petty revenge. Changed the website back to the old default before quitting. A few years back, I was on my first PM job, had a few bigger household name banks as my main accounts, and then I was tasked with running the back end of a website for a special client, as I have some web design experience. Well, after about a year-ish of working there, I had my bank accounts get signed on with another team, and I was just left to work the website. I was tasked with taking everything from the old platform and to move it to a newer, more streamlined one. But I would have to build everything manually as the two sites didn't like to talk with each other. After a few months of this, I get it completed and set it off for review. I get told by my manager that it looked great and set it live. From then on, my life became hell. I would get calls, texts, and emails from the woman who runs the purchasing department and the one who used the site the most. As this website is just for internal purchasing for interior branding, she has a list of thousands of things that are wrong, things that needed to be changed, and things she wants taken down. All this is news to us. All the descriptions, sizes, images, all came from the brand book. And now she was personally rewriting everything so that it looked better for her on the site. I did all of this with no issues. I had nothing else to do, and this was busy work. So I didn't mind the work. It was the non-stop bothering by the purchasing woman. If I didn't answer my phone right away, I would get a text. Then if I did not respond to that right away, I'd get another call and an email and maybe another text just saying, "Hello?" I was getting these calls at all hours of the day, sometimes still up to 11:30 at night, and I made it a point to never answer a single one after I left the office. This was also stressing me out and building up anxiety every time my phone went off, and my wife started to notice. I brought this up with my manager. She just said to keep doing what I was doing and respond while working, but not after hours. I eventually wrapped up all her updates and sent it off for review and got moved to a smaller project, but it was at least not website work anymore. After like a week of nothing from her, I get this massive list in all red emailed to me. My manager, my manager's boss, and the CEO of the company whose website I was working on. I get told by big boss and CEO that I am to answer her calls. No matter what time it is, her website is top priority, and whatever she needs done is to be done ASAP. At this point, I was already over the job. I found a better paying PM job that I am at now, and was over the stress of just anticipating another call or text from her. So I let them know that Friday was my last day. This was like Wednesday. Well, instant panic. No one else knows how to work the site. 2 days is not enough time to train someone. New and her updates need to go in now, and she will have more over the weekend. I just said not my issue. I can do what I see and do in the 2 days, but Friday at lunch I was leaving for good. They found some IT intern who said he had web development experience, so I sat down with him on Thursday to go over the basics. And he looked like I was speaking to him in binary. I was able to dumb it down enough to show him the basics of how to edit the text, images, and variants, but that was about it. Sometime that night, I got an email from the purchasing woman. It was another massive list of updates she demanded I change before I quit, and then some digging about how I am screwing her over. The dig rubbed me the wrong way, so I forwarded the email to my manager, her boss, and the website CEO, and then went to bed, hatching a plan for the morning. The very first sentence in her massive list of changes she wanted was to set the website to default so that she can edit things herself and not the IT guy I had just trained. Well, little did she know, setting it back to default sets literally everything back to default and will remove all my work. Now I could have been nice and saved a copy of everything, but I was done with her and was told already to do whatever she needed to be done, so I did just that. That was all I did that morning. I clicked, "Are you sure?" like 3 times before the site went back to default and started cleaning out my laptop and desk. I said my goodbyes to a few co-workers and left around 10:30 that morning. It was maybe around 2:30 to 3 p.m. that I get a call on my cell from my now previous manager. She is freaking out that the site is completely empty and no one is able to get anything purchased. I let her know I was just following purchasing lady's orders to set it to default, so she could edit it, and also following Big Boss when he said to do whatever she needed done. She let out a long sigh and said, "Okay, thanks and have a good one," or something, and hung up. I heard from a friend who still worked there that purchasing lady blew up, demanded we fix the site, and was going to sue me personally for making her do all this work now. I guess they did not resign with that client this year, and when I go to the site now, it still does not load properly, so not sure how they are purchasing their interior branding. TLDR, evil purchasing demon demands I follow her exact words, and it blows up in her face. Petty revenge. Leave a nasty note on my legally parked scooter. Get banned from parking in front of your garage. Years ago, I was at my girlfriend's house from about 10:02 a.m. playing board games. In San Francisco, it's tough to find parking, so I rode my scooter to her place and parked between 2 driveway cutouts on a curb that was approximately 3 tallers wide. This is quite common, perfectly legal, and normally not a big deal. To be clear, I was not blocking their garage, but I did park between 2 cars parked in front of their garage. I have been to her 6-unit apartment building dozens of times, and have seen their no parking signs on the building between the 3 garage doors in front of the curb area I parked at. I came out to my scooter with both vehicles still parked in the same position they were in when I arrived to find a note on my seat. I loved the anger, sarcasm, rage, and entitlement, so of course I kept it, and it is now placed prominently on my refrigerator for all to read. I appreciate this guy's effort and outrage despite being a petty note to leave. It kinda reminds me of something I might do, making sure I was in compliance with the law, however. The note, sadly, I can't share a picture of it. I am wondering if you are illiterate. have a poor sense of spatial recognition, don't care if your bike is damaged when I have to pull out of the space since you have not left me enough room to do so safely, or you don't care if you are sighted or towed. Move your bike before you are sorry you ignored the no parking sign, and don't park here again. There are many other available spaces for you to park. Next day at work, I looked up parking codes in San Francisco, and turns out you cannot park in front of your garage if you live in a building with more than 2 units, and you can only install no parking signs on a garage door. I called SF311 and reported the situation, and the next time I went to visit her, the no parking signs between the garages were removed, and I never saw a car parked in front of the garage doors again. I only felt bad for the other 2 people who can no longer park in front of their garages because of this Karen Kevin. Petty revenge. Maybe don't be nasty to employees you don't have authority over. So this was a few years ago, right after the end of the pandemic. I was working as a guard manager pastry chef, but wasn't happy and wanted a mentor. My maitre d' knew a fantastic chef and hooked me up. The job I'd been at the time was seasonal, so I'd need to job shop anyway. I end up at an Italian place as the new garde manger and pastry chef, under my now mentor. Now it's important to understand the weird structure of this particular restaurant. The owner was in his 70s and barely ran anything. We'll call him Tom. He just wanted to run his app station and pay someone else to be head chef. That chef is my mentor. We'll call him Otto. Then there was a sous chef Keith and the FOH manager Janine. Janine had been working line cook shifts in the back due to short staffing and felt that made her our boss, even though she had literally zero authority over the line cooks, let alone the chefs. Now this restaurant, to put it nicely, has seen better days. Not kitchen nightmares material, but definitely going underwater due to their rapidly aging fan base. Chef Otto was brought in originally as a consultant to revamp the menu and overhaul procedures. He did. Then Janine nagged Tom until he slowly made Otto change it back. Here's the thing, Jay hates change. We've been doing it this way for 20 years. Yeah, and you're in the red. Clearly things need to change. After a few months, Chef Otto got fed up and moved to another restaurant 40 miles away. Unfortunately, I couldn't follow at the time because of a family situation. We remained in touch, him teaching me a lot of things just through conversations. They brought in a new executive chef dude to take over. Janine helped choose this guy. Why did she want him? Because he was a burnt-out doormat that would do whatever she wanted. Sous chef Keith and I tried desperately to convince them to stop using recipes that physically, scientifically did not work. But Janine's bitching continued, her famous mantra, "It's fine, we've done it for X number of years," slowly driving me mad. Janine is not just stubborn, she's an active bully that did not like it when people told her no. Tom hasn't had passion for much probably since the 70s, so it was easy for her to bully him and get whatever she wanted. Eventually, Keith also got fed up and bounced, leaving me alone to deal with Janine and her beaten-down lackeys. Now the important thing is that, weirdly, Tom actually really liked me. He liked that I was excited by food and wanted to make everything beautiful. This meant he gave me free rein. My station was my kingdom, until the restaurant started opening 7 days a week again. Suddenly, someone else had to run my station when I wasn't there. Guess who? Janine. Janine took this as her opportunity to try and push me around, even though she'd been told repeatedly that she was not my boss and couldn't tell me to do jack. She'd rearrange my entire very large station and prep area for the 1 day a week she watched it, then complain when I fixed it. Now, I'm a fan of do what you've got to do to make a station work for you. Especially since she's very tall with back pain, I didn't mind her setting it up how she needed for service. I just wanted her to put it back when she left. It's just basic respect. If it's not your station, put it back. This war went on for months, Tom trying to have a backbone with her because he didn't want me to leave. Near the end of my stay, he brought in an ACF-certified master chef and his apprentice to try again at revamping the menu. The master chef, Andy, did an exquisite job at modernizing and improving procedures. Let's just say that a lot of the methods we used for Janine's precious recipes were ineffective at best. His apprentice Nina was a pastry chef who helped me revamp the entire dessert menu. Tom gave the two of us full control. They were beautiful, easy to plate quickly, and absolutely delicious. The only thing pre-made that we had was the gelato. Janine did not like this at all. She went into absolute overdrive, bitching constantly, making her old recipes when prepping, Hiding ingredients, hiding equipment, the works. One thing that seriously got on mine and Nina's nerves was that she literally wouldn't garnish the plates. At all. She was just too lazy, I guess. Or maybe it was another middle finger. I had a kettle soup warmer to keep hot fudge warm during service because I'd go through a Namaka 10 can of the stuff every 2 days. She started hiding it. She's a tall woman, like 6'2", and I'm smaller, like 5'4", so she'd hide it on top of things. Now, because I'm not a 3-year-old, I'd quickly find it and get it down. All the while, she was convinced that Nina was her new best friend. She wasn't. Nina hated her as much as I did, and would tell her where she hid things to gloat. Nina would obviously turn around and either tell me or just go get it. After all this, my final straw arrives. Tom gave me a budget to go and buy new plates for my new salads. The old salad plates were, admittedly, very pretty once, but were very old and beat up. They needed to be replaced regardless. I picked out some new plates. They arrived. They're gorgeous. Tom likes them, even seems a little excited about something for once. I came back from my day off 2 weeks later to find all of the new plates in the basement, and all of the ratty, beat-up plates they hadn't thrown out yet back on the station. That was it. I don't know why that was my final straw, but it was. I called Chef Otto within 10 minutes of getting to work and asked if he had a spot for me. He asked what happened, and I gave him the whole rundown. He offered me more money and less responsibility so that I could focus more on learning the other kitchen roles that I'd never really gotten to explore. I put in my 2 weeks that day. Tom was not happy with Janine, and for once actually put his foot down with her. She wasn't allowed near me my whole notice period. I think he was hoping I'd change my mind. Well, time for petty revenge. My final day comes and Janine isn't there. I suddenly have a wicked idea that didn't actually hurt anything. I took all of the most vital, high-traffic items and moved them all to the bottom, most shelves and drawers. Now, this was a huge station, with drawer fridges and a Pepsi cooler, so you can imagine about how low those lowest shelves and drawers were. Not just the coolers either. I also did the equipment drawers, dry goods, freezers, you name it, and it got a makeover. I unfortunately didn't get to witness my artwork firsthand, but I did hear about it later from the dish guy. He said that she spent days cursing, bending over, and having to reorganize. I never heard boo about it from Tom because he was still mad at her for driving me out. So either he thought she deserved it or didn't believe her. Either way, imagining her spending days having to bend over every couple of minutes definitely scratched the itch of pure frustration that had built up over the 4 months after my chef left. I know this is awfully long for a petty revenge story, but this woman seriously made my job an irritating nightmare every single day. This isn't even all of it. Not even scratching the surface. There are so many more stories. Anyone who's interested is welcome to ask. TLDR FOH manager doesn't like that I don't listen to her non-existent authority, bullied me until I left. I reorganized the entire station so that she, a 6'2" woman with back pain, would have to bend over for every single important item when I left. Petty revenge. Nickel and dime medical bill. My child's pediatrician used an incorrect diagnosis code for part of her well-child visit. The result of this is that I'm being asked to cover the difference. I work in the field, so have at least a working understanding of billing, and how your procedures and diagnosis codes have to be matched for insurance to cover the services. It is not a large sum, but I am certain it is not one I should have to pay. The MD is part of a large bureaucratic and opaque hospital system. All parties refuse to correct or even acknowledge the error. Months have passed and they continue to demand payment for a service that should be fully covered by insurance, and would even be covered now if they just fixed the error. Faced with this immovable object of a bill, I felt very angry and frustrated. I wondered how best to punish the provider, office, system. I left some bad reviews for the doctor, simply stating the facts. She will make errors that cost you money and refuse to fix them. This didn't provide me with much satisfaction. Thought maybe I'd pay the bill in person with physical nickels and dimes. But this punishes the office staff, and I don't have any particular beef with them. Then I figured out I can Apple Pay my bill 5 cents at a time. I know the merchant has to pay a flat fee per transaction. So if they won't budge on this bill, I will make damn sure it will cost them money rather than making them money. Time to switch back to a smaller local peddy's office while I'm at it. Petty revenge. Rude neighbor. I live in the upper unit of a duplex that's stacked on top of each other. We moved in not too long ago, and the neighbor has been incredibly rude to my boyfriend and me. A brief summary of her is that she expects we completely alter our lifestyle and layout of our apartment to better suit her unrealistic needs. We cannot walk above her, late, shower, use the bathroom, wash the dishes, talk to each other, etc., all because it disturbs her. She has told us multiple times that doing the laundry at the various times we are, 6 p.m., 8 p.m., aka when we get home from work, is unreasonable and inconsiderate of her. She will take out her anger on us and just yell at us or start slamming all her doors below us. One thing she asked of me stuck with me. When you are using the kitchen faucet, please turn it off slowly, because when you do it too fast, it makes a pop sound in my sink that scares me. I suddenly love washing dishes. I will slam it off as much as I can randomly throughout the day and then sit in silence to hear her groan. It's the most lukewarm revenge, but it makes me smile. Petty revenge. From 5 stars to jail bars. I threw my sister in jail. Technically, she is my half-sister. But moving forward, I had been trying to get a restraining orders against my mother, her husband, and my half-sister. With everything I had, it should have been a done deal. But the judge, though otherwise, and denied it. Before we left the courtroom, my lawyer asked to put a statement on the record, which was that I had all the power, and if they showed up on your property, I have the right to have them arrested. I told him I understood, and then looked directly at them and said, "If you show up on my property, I will not ask you to leave or tell you to leave. I'll just call the police. You will be arrested, and I will press full charges for trespassing." A little on my sister. She is spoiled. My parents put all their money and efforts on her, and it's now biting them in the arse. Read prior posts on my family to get a better understanding. But the long story. We come from money. She was the chosen one. She got everything. I built my own life. I'm getting ready to move and have been packing, and she showed up yesterday. I did exactly as I told them I would. I didn't ask or tell. I just called 911 and explained the situation. The police showed up, asked her what was going on. She said I was her brother and that she wanted to talk. I told the police and her that she had no business being her and to arrest her, and I was pressing full charges. And they did just that. I feel nothing. The level of hatred I have for her is dangerous. She has treated me like less than any kind of a living human being my entire life. She thrives on this. I feel like I was perfectly justified in doing this. They knew what would happen if any of them showed up. So Fafo. Petty revenge. Rearranged every single paper chart before I left. Recently got fired from a toxic job, so I rearranged every single paper chart before I left. I used to work in a small toxic office where the 2 guys I worked with were best friends and acted like high school mean girls. If one of them didn't like you, the other didn't either, and surprise, they didn't like me. They were snobby, smug, and made it clear I wasn't part of their little club. While they stood around chatting, I did most of the actual work. This office still used paper charting like actual physical folders. Every day I had to pull, organize, and file charts by hand. It was tedious and ridiculous, but I handled it. Meanwhile, the doctor, aka the owner, was sketchy as hell. He'd write scripts for controlled substances, have me stamp them, and didn't follow any real protocols. Think of a controlled substance pill that is often swapped between college kids or prescribed to people to help them pay attention. He was supposed to make patients come in monthly to get their refills instead. He'd give them a 90-day supply and then act clueless when they came back after a month for more. Not sure how he is still getting away with it. He was dangerously negligent too. Almost had me give penicillin to a patient who was allergic. I caught it just in time. No thanks to him. Anyway, I could tell early on I wasn't going to be there long. One of the guys had a friend about to graduate who'd need a job, aka mine, so they started trying to get me fired. They'd sabotage charts, misfile stuff I'd done, and make it look like I was the problem. I told them I was supporting my family and couldn't afford to lose the job that didn't stop them. So I started keeping a notebook where I wrote down everything I did, with timestamps. Didn't matter. The doctor was checked out. He fired me 30 minutes before my shift ended, but told me 2 hours earlier to make sure the charts were filed and organized before I left. So I did exactly that. I reorganized every single chart, just not in the way he wanted. I took the A's and put them with the Z's, swapped M's with B's, you name it. Nothing was damaged or thrown away. Clients will not suffer in any way, shape, or form, just completely out of alphabetical order. Still there, just unusable unless you spent hours digging. A perfect mess. Imagine a perfectly organized deck of cards, and then you throw them on the ground and pick them back, or shuffle them but worse. These charts were so well organized, you not only was it organized by first and last names, but also the following letters as well, for example. Petty? Sure. Deserved? Absolutely. Do I regret it? Not one bit. I hope it took them forever to fix. Petty revenge. Wanna skip the line? You're going to wait. I worked at a guard shack for a distribution center. My job was to direct and process all incoming and outbound traffic and paperwork. Most semi-truck drivers are paid by the mile, so I had some empathy for their time and tried to do my job as efficiently and pleasantly as possible. That being said, when it's busy, it is busy. It took me roughly 2 minutes to process the paperwork and check the information of each truck, which I don't think is too bad. Container haulers are a bit of a different story. They pick up shipping containers at the rail yard, drop them off at the distribution center, and most of the time grab an empty to take back to the yard. Rinse and repeat. So I saw these same guys several times a day, roughly every hour or so, while they are fulfilling their quota for the day. They get paid by the hour and know the drill. On each side of the guard shack there are 2 lanes. 2 lanes for inbound and 2 lanes for outbound. The outmost lane on both sides is usually blocked with a traffic cone because those are emergency lanes. We keep them clear in case there is an emergency on the lot and we need to give quick access to ambulances and fire trucks, which in my 7 years of working there had happened on my shift alone more times than you'd think. Every once in a while, a maintenance man or guard would move those cones for some reason or another and like bees to honey truckers would try to use those lanes. And monkey see, monkey do. Now there is a whole line of truckers I've got to sort and back up, LOL. If I saw it happening, I would stop what I was doing and politely direct them to the correct lane and put the cone back in place. If it was an accident because they didn't know any better, no harm, no foul. Back to the shipping container guys. They know better, and like I said, they get paid by the hour. Every now and then I would be super busy, with a long line of trucks to process, and a shipping container hauler, who was bobtail, that means no trailer attached to his truck, would pull into the emergency lane and expect me to open the gate for them so they could cut the line like it was their own personal express lane. Absolutely not. Not only will allowing that put my job at risk, it will become a fully active lane as all the other truckers will follow suit, which means I can't get and give the paperwork I need to handle over there. I have no access to my computer and printer out there. And if there is an accident, emergency services can't respond in a timely manner. And like I said, I'm already slammed. Running back and forth to the out lanes makes everything take double the amount of time. So when truckers would purposefully pull up there, I would ignore them. If I saw it in time, I would jump out and place and cone behind them to stop other people from doing the same thing. And then I would prioritize the truckers playing by the rules, all the while ignoring the container guy who is honking, waving his arm, pointing at the gate to get my attention. And only after clearing the lines would I walk over and explain that they are going to have to back up and get in the proper lane. And if I hadn't caught it in time, I would proceed to direct everyone who was foolish enough to get behind the bozo to back up and get into the proper lane. I'd put the cone back in place and meet everyone back at the guard shack with a friendly smile, even if they are a bit cantankerous after that. Guess it wasn't an express lane after all, and you just wasted a good chunk of time and some of your pride for acting entitled. Petty revenge. I'm wrong because you have a higher position. Get smacked. I tried to help us. Around 15 years ago, I worked as a contract nursing assistant for a hospital. One of my jobs as agency CNA was I had to manage a room called the restraint-free room, mostly because I was a big, tall dude, but also because I was agency and the other CNAs hated it, and the full-timers had their clique and agency ain't in it. Reason it was called the restraint-free room is because the facility had strict rules on restraints and only used them as absolute last resort, preferring to put them all in a small room with someone watching them and redirecting them. But sometimes you'd just get someone in there that pissed off the nurses. One night I got one of these guys. He did not want to wear his CPAP machine. Helps him with sleep apnea and probably needs it. But he hates it because it's bulky as hell, the straps suck, and he could not toss and turn in it without waking up. That plus being stuck in a hospital for 2 weeks and being stove up drove him nuts. In my training as a CNA, I was always told a patient can deny treatment and go AMA, except in certain cases, like they are a danger to themselves or others, or they can't make decisions because of some legal or medical condition. Being of somewhat right mind after talking with him, he had the right to not wear the thing or have his concerns about it addressed. I did try to convince him to wear it. It is my job. But when he got agitated, I said he had a right to do it, and I mentioned I'd have to chart this. He agreed and we were cool. And this should have been the end of it. I chart patient is refusing to wear CPAP, nurse informed. Most places I had worked, it was no problem. Someone with a higher pay grade can handle it, or ignore it. No need for a big deal. Then a nurse practitioner, the charge nurse, and the floor nurse I was under enter into the room at like 4 a.m. and flick lights on. Nurse practitioner is pissed. For those unaware of the culture of medicine, think of it like hierarchies of tribes, each with its own hierarchy and shared language. In nursing, a nurse practitioner is only rivaled by an anesthesia nurse, even outranking nurse managers, almost on par with lesser doctors, but not in the doctor tribe, and have enormous autonomy and perks. At the absolute bottom are nursing assistants. While essential, we are expendable and do the dirtiest work and spend the most time with patients. She starts berating the floor nurse, then looking in my direction. These people, meaning nursing assistants, me, are supposed to make sure the patient is wearing the CPAP. It's their job. And your job to make sure they do this. Are you just sitting here being lazy? All of this in front of the patient, of course. Along with another poor patient that just kept falling out of bed, waking him up. Ma'am, you are a nurse practitioner with years of experience and education. If you could show me your technique to do this, I'd be much in your debt. After all, CNA school is only a month-long school. Mind? She grabs the CPAP, goes over. Here, Mr. Whatever, you need this, and tries to put it on. Smack! I think that slap could be heard all the way to the nurse's station. The nurse practitioner's glasses went flying, and in a flurry of activity, code called and a squad of other CNAs and a nurse with a large dose of emergency tranquilizer march in. Stab him in the butt, and he is in 5-point restraints and out of my room because, well, no restraints in the restraint-free room. I turned to the nurse practitioner after the chaos. If one of your RNs wrote non-compliant, you would not say they are lazy. You would respect their assessment. Why should this be different for a CNA? When I chart this, I don't do this because I want to lay out. I do it to inform the proper people while making sure my patient is safe and I am safe. She looked up, still probably seeing stars, nodded and apologized. I never had crap from her the rest of my tenure there, and even had me help fix a laptop she had with a simple repair. Not all revenge has to be malicious. Sometimes it can be educational. TLDR big nurse ignores and dismisses what a lowly nursing assistant reports as laziness due to stereotypes. F's around, finds out. To the chagrin of the patient, unfortunately, and herself.